Hi, my name is Marty. I'm going to show you how to fillet a fish. Well, the very first time that you fillet a fish, you might find it a little bit intimidating, but honestly there's nothing really to it. After you do it a few times, you'll realize that there really is nothing to be intimidated about, and it's actually pretty easy. Now, one thing that you're definitely going to need is a knife. Another thing that comes in handy is one of these. This is a cutting board with a little clamp attached to it. A fillet knife has a razor's edge, as opposed to like a kitchen knife, which is going to have a serrated edge. If you don't have a fillet knife, I strongly suggest you get one. It's also nice to have a stone to keep it sharp. First, I want to talk about the different types of fish that you might be filleting. Now, no matter what type of fish that you're going to fillet, chances are that they're all pretty much built the same. You have the body of the fish like this. It has a tail, it has the bottom, it's got a gill over here, and an eye there like that. One of the things you have to come to terms with is the fact that this is not going to be the shape of your fillet. Your fillet is probably going to be about 50% the size of this fish. Personally, I had a lot of trouble with that when I first started filleting fish. But the truth of the matter is, the only part of the fish that you're going to be able to fillet is this yellow part here. The rest of it pretty much is going to be waste. Now, as far as where to start, I would say on all the fish that I fillet, is I bring my knife in right here. Inside that dorsal fin, there's a pocket around it. Like if you were to look at the dorsal, it's kind of like this, and there's a pocket that it fits into. You'd be able to see that pocket on the fish. And now the reason that pocket is there is so that when the fin retracts, the fish can be a lot faster. This thing can come down and disappear, and that makes the fish real streamlined. But inside this little area, there's a weak spot. It's a lot easier to bring your knife right into that weak spot and start your filleting right there. Just a word to the wise: if you live with your mom, or you have a wife or a girlfriend that shares the same kitchen as you, do not bring fish into the kitchen. Do this outside. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes only. Today I'm going to be demonstrating with a sheep's head, which is, again, pretty much the same as all the other fish. Flounder and trout and redfish or snapper. They're all primarily built the same. Even flounder, the flatfish, even though both eyes are on this side of the fish, it still has a backbone, and it's got ribs that splay off of that backbone. And it's got a dorsal and a pectoral fin and here, and the anal fin at the bottom. It's all the same, pretty much, give or take. This dorsal fin here has a little pocket for it to fit inside of. And that's where I'm going to start my fillet. Right inside that opening. When you first enter that cavity where this dorsal fin is, your knife almost always goes in a little bit straight. But after that, you're going to try to alter the angle of your blade, because your ribs are coming off like this, and the knife wants to be 45 degrees to that. Let me give you an example using this fish analog that I've made. Once you have the knife in, you want to make sure you're keeping it at an angle to these ribs. That's the important part. If you try to take the fillet off with the knife running the same direction as the ribs, you're going to find that you're going to get caught on the ribs, and the knife might want to go underneath the ribs when you're giving it that downward pressure. If you keep it at an angle like this, the knife will slide over the ribs a lot easier. The same goes with the bottom here. You got to keep it at ideally a 45-degree angle to those ribs, and then with a slight downward pressure, the knife is going to slide across those ribs nice and easy, and you'll practically leave no meat behind. You just want to make sure you don't have that knife running the same direction as the ribs, because it's going to get caught in there and it's going to give you problems. So keep your blade at an angle. Now that you know how you want to keep your knife and where to start, you're halfway there. Notice the angle of my blade, giving a sawing motion, because this isn't the sharpest of any knife, but if you follow these tips, your knife doesn't have to be super sharp, because you won't be trying to cut through bones. Once you know where the bones of your fish are, you're going to have a much easier time filleting. You may also notice that as I'm filleting, I'm peeling this fillet back, gripping the top of it, and I'm pulling back on it. And that's opening it up so I can slice with this part of the knife right here, just like I showed you on the analog over there. Pressing down on those ribs and drawing the knife back until I get to where about the backbone is. Here at the front of the fish, the fleshy part of the fillet ends right about here, right where this line is, this dark line. And it's going to continue this way forward underneath this side fin here, and we're going to go around the belly and the rib cage, which on a sheep's head is pretty big. When we turn, the blade goes from being flat up against the ribs to like this, with the knife edge straight up. Remember that pretty much all fish are going to be the same. Whether you're talking about jacks, or trout, or snapper, pretty much all of your fish are going to be the same kind of premise. Once you know how to fillet one fish, you're going to pretty much know how to fillet them all. Now that I've turned the blade up and I've started the cut downward as opposed to across its back, I've reached its spine. And if I pull this fillet back, I can see the spine right there, and it's a little bit higher, and I'm going to have to raise the blade up to get over that spine and not lose too much of the fillet. And the rib cage over here, I'm doing the same thing as the back ribs, except I'm changing the angle of the blade slightly, making slight cuts, and as I pull that fillet back, you can see I got a little bit too much meat there. There it goes. Just kind of peeling it. And everywhere there's a rib, there's one, there's one, there's one there, and there's one. I'm letting that dictate the angle of my blade, and I'm just being careful. Once you get familiar with your fish, you can go a little bit faster. And this is where a really sharp knife comes in handy, because you're cutting through the hard outer shell. A sharp knife is going to go through that a lot better than this dull thing I've got here. Now, I'll bring my blade straight up, because that's the ribs are going up and over. So I'm following that angle, continuing to peel back the fillet. Now, if you look at this for a second, let's stop. What I showed you in that drawing, here's the head, here's the guts, which are big on sheep's head. You're not getting this part, and you're not getting this tail here. That's a big looking fish, And all I'm getting for the fillet is less than half of its width right here. And it feels like you're doing something wrong, but you're not. That's all there is. This part over here is bones, and underneath that is the guts. So that's all you can get. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong. Now, at the bottom here, the fillet, the guts disappear, and the meat widens out almost to the bottom of the fish, right to where his poop chute is, right here. The fish's butthole is right where my finger is.
Ew.
And the fillet goes to that, just beyond it. So my knife is going to have to go over the ribs. My knife is going to have to go over the spinal column there and finish the fillet. But rather than come in again from the fin, what I'll do is I'll just lift this up and finish the fillet like this. The knife will poke out the other side. A little sawing motion near the tough part on the back of the fish. And again, I'll continue to follow the ribs that go around the guts. Now there's bones right there that are guiding my blade. And there you go. There's a fillet. Some people cook it with the skin on after they pull all the scales off. But for me, I take it one step further and I remove the skin to get the fillet free from the fish. In order to do that, I start, this part right here is so thin, and there's like a sinewy flesh there that attaches to the tail and transfers the power from these muscles to the tail. So that part there isn't the best part of the fillet, so I'll use that as a handle by slicing straight down and then turning the blade like that. Now you see there's a little hunk of meat right there that I can grab with my hand. Now I got a firm grip on the skin. With that firm grip, I can press down rather hard as long as the angle of the blade is the same as this cutting board, and I can pull on this piece of the tail of the skin, and with a slight sawing motion of the blade, the blade kind of stays put. I'm now pulling the skin to me, to the left. The blade's pretty much staying put, and I pulled the fillet across the knife. So what I was doing is I was sawing back and forth, pulling the skin, keeping that blade level with the cutting board. And the fillet slides free from the skin. One of the last things you'll need to do is you'll take this fillet. Some people try to trim a little bit of that dark meat off of there, but on sheepshead it's not that important. Redfish have a real dark line. The darker that dark meat is, the fishier it might taste. It's all about preference. Some people say you gotta do it. I mean, you don't have to do it. You could leave it on there. You rinse all the blood off of the fillet, because that's gonna have an acrid taste. And you now have a fillet to cook however you choose. Now that is a beautiful fillet. Well, now that you're done filleting, there's a couple things that you have to consider, and that's what do you do with the fish that's now lying in your sink. Again, you should be doing this outside. I did it inside for the better light. I'm going to show you some more clips from where I usually do it out in the shed and discuss what I normally do to get rid of the skin and the body of the fish. Now, one of the simple things you need to think about when you're filleting a fish for the first time is what do you do with the carcass? It's something that most people aren't used to. When you go to the store and you buy just the fillet, you don't have to worry about getting rid of the body. So the way that I've come up with is I keep my old bags from the supermarket and I'll put the fillets on the bag, and then I have another bag here that I hang off of my vise for the skin and for the body. Some people I know bury these things, but I catch a lot of fish, so my whole neighborhood would start to stink after a while. So I just kind of break the back, I put it in the bag. It's got the skin there, in there and everything. I squeeze all the air out of it. And then I double bag that. I don't bother tying a knot, I just kind of twist it and then roll it, and that'll keep some of the stink out. I'll put this in the freezer, and then on garbage day I put it in the trash, and Bob's your uncle.